Hey there, Real Estate Junkies. Before we dive into today's episode, we've got some game changing resources to help you start buying and selling real estate on terms, the smart, creative way. Want to learn how to invest with little or no money down? Grab your free ebook, The 4 Game Plans, and discover the exact strategies we use every day. Get it now. The link is in the show notes. Looking for a complete step-by-step system to start making 3 paydays per deal? Check out the Quantum Leap System, our home study course packed with everything you need to close your first terms deal. Need a personalized strategy? Book a free one-on-one strategy session with one of our coaches. Just use coupon FREE3 at checkout. Ready to take action? Join the 3 Payday Apprentice Program and start working toward real estate success with direct mentorship. Want hands-on training with us? Spend 3 days at our In the Trenches Bootcamp, where we'll work side by side to lock in deals. And don't miss our biggest event of the year, QOS Live 2025. Connect with top investors, sharpen your skills, and take your business to the next level. Secure your spot today. All links are right below in the show notes. Click now and start building your real estate empire. Now, let's get into today's episode. Welcome back, everyone. Again, we want to ask those questions because, as you guys saw, after I asked him, hypothetically, if he doesn't sell, it led to another conversation, which is another game plan, which we've talked about. Is we can introduce that game plan to the seller, and again, we're only seeing if they're open to the idea, right? We're not trying to sell them anything. We're just saying, hey, here's an idea. Here's an option we have. You'll make more money and you won't have the landlord responsibilities because these are buyers, not renters, right? Welcome back, everyone, to Real Estate Junkies Coast to Coast. I'm your co-host from the West Coast, Rusty. Ham on the East Coast, Rick. Say hi.
Hey everyone, Rick Abbiati from the East Coast, and it is getting warmer, so no more talk of snow and cold.
Snow and cold? Yeah, we had all work. We finally getting April. We call them April showers, but it's March. But we're getting rain, Rick. This is the first rain we've gotten in probably 52 weeks. So we needed it, right? We needed a bunch of rain. Hopefully where the fires are, they're not getting mudslides. That's usually what happens. We get fires and we get rain and then we get mudslides. That's how it kind of goes. All right, Rick, our warm up today, remember skill set, mindset, skill set, and systems. That's our 3 pillars. We're going to go through some skill set today, maybe some scripting, and remind me again, Rick, the scripting that we were going to talk about today was
Seller wanting to define their own terms, and all they want interest, a high amount of interest, down payment, shorter term, and full price.
right. So how do we handle that, right? And then we had some questions from our associates, right? We got a question from one of the associates. Actually, not a question. It's what we've been doing lately. If you guys don't know, we call critique. We listen to our associates' call. We critique their calls, right? So we give them advice on how to handle objections, what you should say here, what you should not say there. Keep the calls, 5 to 7 minutes if you can. When they first start out, it's hilarious because they send us 17, 18, 20-minute calls, and it's very painful, right, Rick? It's very painful.
Yeah, it's like you want to just skim through them, but you can't because you got to figure out where they need to improve and where they can cut down on that time. Yeah.
Right. So once they do that, once they get better, which is cool, because then now we can just, kind of fine tune what they're trying to, because really it's what, why are you selling? Where are you going? When do you need to get there? And then the final question is what I haven't been hearing from our associates is, what if it doesn't sell, right? I don't know if you're getting any of those in your call when they're not asking.
Yep.
So the scripting, Rick, kind of script it with me. Let's just kind of ad lib here. I'm buying your home, so I'm going to ask you some questions here. Well, Rick, if I got you to your price, would you be open to at least purchase from owner financing? And when you go, just don't be negative about it. Just say, hey, I got a realtor, or uh, you know, I
Yeah,
might.
no, it's well, I'm planning on putting it back on the market. I've already got
Okay,
it ready.
yeah. So do that. Okay, so hey, Rick, I'm looking to buy homes in your area. I was curious if you're still looking to sell. Do you have a realtor, or am I? Can I speak with you?
Yep, I just signed with a realtor. I was waiting till spring, and I'm sure it's going to sell now.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, how long are you tied up for with this realtor? Because again, I only work with the homeowner.
Uh,
90 days. Well, if you don't get the price you want, or if you don't sell in the time frame that you want, hey, give me a call. I'm curious, Rick, if your house doesn't sell, hypothetically, if it doesn't sell, I know you want it to sell and you think it's going to sell, but if it doesn't sell, what are your plans?
well,
What do
I'm
you think?
pretty sure it's going to sell. The market's going to be hot.
Okay. All right. So you have a crystal ball? You know it's going to sell?
Yep, no, I'm assuming it's going to move.
Okay. So hypothetically, the sky is falling and it doesn't sell. What are your plans? Do you have a plan B? Are you just
Well,
going to are you going to keep lowering the price, Rick?
I probably will not lower the price. I may end up just renting it out.
Okay. Okay. Well, that kind of opens the door for something else. I do have another idea if you're open to it, where we find a buyer for you. We charge them a non-refundable down payment. I would share a portion of that to you. I would assign this buyer back to you. You would be relieved of any of those landlord headaches because these are buyers, they're not renters. And then you get the normal cash flow that you normally would get. Is that something that you would be open to do?
Well, is that going to come off my asking price?
No. You're going to get your minimum plus additional down payment and the cash flow and the principal pay down that you would get on your mortgage.
So how are you going to do that? If there's down payment, it's coming off the asking price.
Yeah, we're going to sell it at a premium. So hypothetically, you and I would agree on a price, and I would take it to market at a higher price. So you're going to get your minimum. Yep, you're going to get your minimum plus whatever money we can get for a down payment.
Now, why? Well, how would you be able to sell at a higher price?
Because the higher price goes to our rent-to-own market, which the rent-to-own market we sell at a higher price because we're selling a future price.
Well, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Everyone get it? So if you're listening to this podcast, it's that easy. Rick was being hard on me. I appreciate that, Rick, and hopefully I did well. Yeah. So again, we want to ask those questions because, as you guys saw, after I asked him, hypothetically, if he doesn't sell, it led to another conversation, which is another game plan, which we've talked about in few. Is we can introduce that game plan to the seller. And again, we're only seeing if they're open to the idea, right? We're not trying to sell them anything. We're just saying, hey, here's an idea. Here's an option we have. You'll make more money and you won't have the landlord responsibilities because these are buyers, not renters, right?
Yep, and I think the thing here is, that particular script there, and it can vary a little bit, but really practice that script over and over and over again. And then when it does come up, you'll be like, yes, I can answer that question, or I can deal with that. So
sorry about that. A little tickle in my throat. All right, cool. Rick, I appreciate that. And then if they say, let's say hypothetically, you said, I'm just going to hang on to it, or I'm going to put it back on the, if it doesn't sell, I'm going to lower the price. What kind of scripting if you said, well, I'm just going to lower the price until it sells? So I'm going to come back to you now. If I would have said, hey, Rick, if I don't sell it at, let's say 500, I'm going to lower it until I get it sold because I just want to be done with this property.
Well, I'm curious as to why would you lower the price if we can get you full price? Wouldn't that be more interesting than dropping your price or paying commissions?
There you go. Yeah, because we are saving them, 5 to 10% on the front end. Again, this is a unique niche. We're looking for sellers that can wait for the money. So if they're open to saving the 5 to 10% on the front end and waiting for their money, rather than lowering their price of their home, and in addition to having to pay commissions and closing costs and all that kind of stuff. We're saving them all that money in the front end, as long as they can wait. Again, it's not for everybody. I want to make a disclaimer. This is not for everyone. It's only for the people that are open to waiting for their money if they want to maximize how much they have in equity. And they don't want to
In fact, I got off a call late this afternoon, and she had K mortgage balance and wanted like 5 something. And so she was thinking if we gave her $100K and make the payments to the mortgage, she'd be good with that. And I told her, we wouldn't do that because we buy hundreds of homes across the nation between us and our partners. But if you're open to waiting for it, we can certainly get you your full price. And you can. And her main thing is she wanted to be free of the house.
Right.
And I said we can definitely achieve that. So she said, "Well, I don't need the money right now." So Perfect. She backed right off of it. So
and that's what we always ask them too, right at the very beginning is, hey Rick, let me ask you this: are you needing or wanting all your money now, or could you wait? And if they say they need it now, in order to purchase that next home in Florida, because that's where everyone's going, then we're probably not the right fit for them, right? But if they can wait, then there's something we can do for them. Even if they can wait, a lot of times it doesn't work out, right? So it's that unique seller that is open to waiting, and it works for both of us. Speaking of working for both of us, let's transition into our game plan, which is you and I talked. We had 2 scenarios today, right, for owner financing. And sometimes you'll find, Rick, in your case, you'll find somebody that's on Zillow that already has the terms in place. They're like, I want this, 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 and this. So describe the 4 quadrants first, and then describe how you talk to the seller. We've kind of scripted it out before, but how you would talk to the seller about those 4 quadrants, and how sometimes it's not going to work for us. So we always back off.
So the 4 quadrants are price, term, monthly payment, which may or may not include interest. That's all considered monthly payment, or down payment.
Quadrant 4, the elephant in the room, right? Because we don't want to put any money down, but the elephant in the room is quadrant 4, which is
right. And I always, when I'm talking to a seller and they're talking interest or whatever it is, I like if they say, well, I want my price, but I want interest. Okay, I can do price, interest, or term. I can't do all 3. But what's most important to you? Because it's got to be a win-win. I don't bring up that 4th quadrant.
Yeah, you never bring it up unless they do, right?
Right.
So in your example today, again, it was in Zillow, it was in print. This is what I want for terms. So right. Did you call this person?
Yes.
Okay. What was that? How was that discussion like? What was that discussion like?
So I said, I noticed you were offering terms on the property. I just wanted to clarify, what you're looking for. And they told me 6.5% down and 5 years and full price. And so I kind of went and tested him on that. And I said, we buy homes throughout the country. We bought hundreds of homes, and, doing it at market rate is awfully challenging. It's not selling now at 7%. So I said, how flexible are you on those terms? He said, well, I'm a little bit flexible. And I said, well, I've got 4 variables to work with. I got 4 variables to work with, because he did bring up down payment.
Right.
I said, I got price, I got term, I got interest, and I got down payment. I can't do all 4 because it's got to be a win-win. So what's most important to you? I don't know if I asked him what's most important to you. I think in that particular case, I was looking for more flexibility, and he said he could be a little more flexible. So at least I know I have some leeway in that. And I said, depending on how the numbers work, will be determine what we can do for you.
Yeah, and we have another coach in the community, Zach, he has a 5-5-5 rule, which is, we're open to doing interest and the down, but we're more in the range of, and this is not like a hard set rule, but we're in the range of 5% interest, 5 years or more on a term, and 5% down. That's kind of where we hover. Now, those things could, like you said, that they could, if we're flexible, we can work around it. A lot of times, and we've talked about it, where okay, we'll get you to your 6.5, but maybe not until year 3 or year 4. If you're flexible, we can do 0% on the first year, and then we can tier it over time, where we can get to your 6.5%. And so now we're both happy, like you just said, like a win-win. We win on the front end, and then he wins on the back end.
Yeah, I don't ever do interest for the first year. I always push the first choice would be principal only for the first year. So you do get your principal pay down, and then you calculate the interest off of that balance at the end of the year.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. In my situation today, Rick, in fact, it was just a question one of the associates had in our group call. And she says, hey, I ran into a lead. It's a high-rise building in Massachusetts overlooking something. And it's a $5 million home. Or it's actually a condo because it's a high-rise. And she goes, and it's free and clear, so how would we do a rent-to-own on that? And I said, you wouldn't. I don't think there's anybody who would want to do a rent-to-own that has that kind of money, right? Because typically somebody who has $5 million to spend on a home, they're self-employed, they're very well off but they probably don't look good at all on paper, right? Bank's not going to loan to them. Maybe they will because of how much money they have, but they got to look good on paper, and maybe they don't. So what we sometimes will do, and we've talked about the assign out, which was what we talked about in the first third of the hour, which is we find a buyer, and that buyer signs it's called a lease purchase with the option to buy. So it's a lease agreement, and then they have to fulfill that option to buy it at a later date, usually 24 months. We assign that contract back to the seller, and now the seller is in charge of collecting the rent and making sure that these these buyers get to the finish line. What we can do as far as these really high-end homes that are free and clear is we buy it through their terms, and maybe we can use your terms as well. If this guy didn't want to budge, for example, right, Rick? If this guy's like, no, I'm stuck at this, and this, then we're like, okay, well, what we'll do is we agree on a purchase and sale agreement, your terms, whatever you want, and we take that contract and we go find a buyer and assign that contract to the buyer. So it's kind of reverse of an AO. And then the way we get paid is just, well, whatever we mark it up at. Let's say hypothetically we buy it at $5 million, we mark it up at 5.3. We take the 300,000 markup, and then we assign that contract to the buyer, right?
Yep.
Did I nail it? Did I nail it?
You nailed it. I always will try to go towards an AO first.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it really doesn't matter. But if it's going to be an owner finance on their terms, and let's say they wanted 7.5% interest because they're holding the money or they're holding the paper, I just let them know, it's not selling at the current market rate. So if you advertise it slightly below market rates, it'll sell much better.
Yeah, and it's using our strategy, right? Because we normally, with our rent to own, we lower it, whatever their future mortgage payment's going to be, we usually lower it before that so that people will call us and get it, and then they get in. So that does make sense, especially in your situation. The Zillow guy, let's say that, he's asking for this, those 4 things, the 15% down and the 7.5. You're like, okay, well, I would recommend 6.5 just so you can get more people involved. We can maybe switch that 15 to 10% so you can get more people to bite. We say, and then we just assign that contract to the future buyer. And so that we just call it a reverse AO, right? We just are assigning the purchase and sale to the future buyer, and then we match those two together. Very cool. Anything else you want to add on those nuances? Yeah, the 4 quadrants, especially for our associates, they get tongue-tied sometimes, and they get a little freaked out when when they this is where they get freaked out, is when they run into a seller that is familiar with owner financing, and then they get an imposter syndrome where they think the seller knows more than they do. And instead of holding their ground, like, hey, this is where we're at.
Yep. And if somebody, and I've had, in fact, last week I had somebody that was very arrogant, and I just pulled back. He said, well, if I'm going to lose the appreciation, because he was hung up on appreciation. And I said, well, nobody's got a crystal ball. It could also drop. And he said, you know as well as I do, real estate always goes up, comes back. And he said, so why don't I just hold on to it and get the appreciation 3 or 4 years from now? And I said, well, then go ahead and do that.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. The key is pulling back, because again, you talked about it. You've said it already a couple of times. Win-win. It's got to be a win-win for both of us. If it's not a win for you, then you just need to get out. Like I always tell associates, if it doesn't sound right, just run. Just get the heck out of there. Move on to the next one.
And I've had a lot of sellers, when I tell them, it's got to be a win-win, a give and take. A lot of them understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Let's pivot to our cool down. In last few weeks, we've been talking about the in the trenches boot camp. We do have one coming up next month, April 14, 15, and 16. Yours truly is going to be there, so we're going to give you some time off, Rick.
Actually, we're both going to be there.
Oh, you're going to be there too? Okay.
Yep.
All right. So maybe you won't get some time off.
So everybody gets a twofer.
Yeah, we'll go to the oyster bar. But so we've been talking about that. So if you guys are interested, again, the link is in the show notes for the 3-day In the Trenches boot camp. You'll work directly with us, bring some leads. We'll call them for you and see if this is a good fit for you. But let's move on to, we call them shiny object syndromes in our community, right? It's very, very common, Rick, and I found, because I've been doing this for 6 years, it's very common, and I got caught up into it too. I got caught up into CRMs, this and that, and I was grabbing them from wherever and getting caught up in those things. Describe some of the or not CRMs, but describe some of the pitfalls with shiny objects and how that can relate to our business.
Well, because of the niche we're in, if you want to get really good at it, is to focus 100% on it. And I'm not talking your personal life and interfering with that or whatever, but I'll give you an example. I get emails all day long from shiny objects, investing in notes. Everything sounds great. Hire more VAs, hire, you name it. There's a lot of advertisements out there, and I don't even read them. I just see the first few lines and I see, they're selling something else. And I make sure it's not from somebody like Chris or something like that. But I just delete them. In fact, my executive assistant, she deletes a lot of them because she knows I don't want to even look at them. I don't want to be distracted by that.
Yeah. And then, because of this podcast, we're getting, I get emails, about, how to improve your podcast and, this and that. And I can get caught up in that because, we're fairly new at it. This is our 42nd episode, so I can get caught up into, I need somebody to write my SEO, and I need these meta tags, and I need somebody to create these descriptions. So they have these professionals out there that are just constantly bombarding you with these advertisements, and it's tricky, right? Because you can get caught. And believe me, we got because Chris will bring in people from other niches. Right. He's brought in people from notes, and we lost the first time he brought in somebody from notes. We lost like 3 or 4 people because they just said, okay, we're not doing terms anymore. I'm just going to go straight notes. Right. And then that doesn't work out. Right. And the reason why we're saying that is, number one, it's not cheap. They're advertising for a reason, because there's some sort of, there's money tied to it. You're gonna. There's either a subscription or there's a one-time where you plop down a bunch of money and then they promise you a bunch of things. The difference between them and us, right, Rick? And I'm sure you'll agree, there is a fee, or not. I wouldn't say a fee. You're building a business, right? So building a business is not free. You have to spend money. people, I mean, we can talk about franchising, how people franchise and they don't make money for the first 3, 4, 5 years, they break even at year 5, and then they start making, then they see the benefits of, so, if you use that analogy with us, yes, there's money that you pay for coaching, but there's two things. You're going to see return on your money faster because there's no money. We don't put money down on his home, right? So we've talked about the infinity of money with a lease purchase where you just put $10 down and, whatever you make outside of that is just infinite. But you're also with us. You're with the coaches. And again, I'm not trying to preach to everybody, hey, you need to join us. If you don't want to join us, that's fine. That's okay. We don't want you. We do want you to join. We want to work with you. But if you don't think this is right for you, then, you don't have to do it. But we are in the trenches, literally. And if you guys can see behind the scenes, Rick, we're constantly calling for sellers, for other associates. We sometimes go on appointments with them. We're, they're sending us contracts. We're editing those contracts for them, right? I don't know. Dig a little deeper and talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so just today alone, I did 3-way calls with some of our associates. One of them, we sent an offer out, and we sent it just before we got on the phone with the seller so we could get their first reaction. Because sometimes if you send it out way ahead of time, if they don't like it or they see something wrong with it, they'll just ghost you. So we got the seller on the phone, sent it, and they reviewed it. It looked all good to them. We answered some questions for them. And then basically they're pretty close to moving forward with it. Between that, I had somebody that was on an appointment and he texted me. He said, "Are you available?" And I said, "Yep." So he called me and I talked to the seller, answered the seller's questions, and it was very positive. And I don't know how many, I reviewed quite a few offers and deal structures today too for associates. So we're definitely in the trenches.
Yeah, I'm not sure any other, so to speak, gurus out there that will spend that much time, especially, that where we've kind of done this shared weekend thing where, you can call us on a Saturday or Sunday now, right? Or, if you talk to any of these gurus, it's like, here's what we do, and then go for it, right? Good luck. And we're not bashing those guys. They do a very good job of advertising. I'm sure that they've done deals with their associates. I think ours is a little more unique because it's more of a family, right?
Yep. And I'll add to that, Rusty, because I know, and you and I have both experienced it, where we have what's called nightly accountability, and we leave a voice text for a coach or Chris or somebody. And the next morning, because it's voice text, it allows us or Chris or one of us to listen to the mindset that we can pick up if you're having some struggles. And we've had people that Chris texted all of us coaches and said, so-and-so is having a hard time. I can pick it up in their voice, give them a call and help them through it. And we do. I think all 3 of us have called them.
Yeah. Even the inflection in their voice, you can, the way they say things like, "Oh, I only made 10 dials today, and I only got 2 leads," and it's like, just kind of the monotone part of it, which is, that they probably had a rough day, or they just weren't having, you can just tell, or hey, I was able to get an appointment today, and you hear the pep in their step and their voice, so you can kind of tell. That's why we have that voice text, is because we want to listen to them, right? We want to make sure that we're helping them appropriately. So good stuff, Rick. I appreciate it. Can't wait to see you live again. I know it's only getting like twice a year now, huh?
In the trenches boot camp. Yep. I get I'll reserve the bar stools.
You'll reserve all right. Yeah. And then we have QOS live, which is early October.
Yep.
Yeah. Early October this year.
Yep.
So again, there's a link in there too as well if you want to check out QOS Live. That's where a lot of things happen. So I highly recommend you getting the QOS Live as well. All right, Rick, I will see you tomorrow, office hours, right? You going to be there?
Yep, I'll be there.
All right, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow.
Take care,
All right.
everyone.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.